Beast Coast will fall back down to 8th. But that's enough speculation for now because we got a match ready for you. Mirage have been heating up over the last couple weeks.
Oh.
If you go all the way back to last Playday, they toppled the Sonics 7-5. They got smoked in Playday 7, but they beat Beast Coast 7-5 on Playday 6. So of the last 3 Playdays, Mirage has a grand total of 6 of a potential 9 points, which is not too bad. As I pointed out, over the last 5 Playdays, TSM has 2 points. That is not ideal. That is not going to be enough to get it done. On the other side of the equation, it's DarkZero, the defending Charlotte Major champions. They want to go back to another major to defend their crown, and they've got a team that is often slept on.
Yeah.
Here in the NAL, who is continuously improving. Banzer and Nick, Nook, Finka, Kaid, and Valkyrie.
I like the Finger ban because there was this discussion on Twitter between kind of like Newers and Spoitberg guy both like kind of talking about it, where some people are saying like if you ban the Finger in the NAL, then half the players will just like outright retire because of such crutch players in this operator. I do like to see Finger being banned out more in North America because in Europe this has been an operator that's been banned more and more as time has progressed.
Almost 50% ban in Europe, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, 44% last I checked. It might have gone up since then, but yeah, close to 50%. Very true. And Mirage now banning it against DarkZero. I mean, that's a Penbepazoo kind of target ban. But the one thing here to note is that Mirage are starting on the attacking side. So obviously they can prepare for this, and they most likely have. They said, you know what, we're going to start attack. We're going to remove the Finger. We're confident in our own capabilities of getting those rounds on the board. And then when DarkZero got a swap after round 6, we're just going to, you know, hope and pray that this Finger ban is going to affect DarkZero, and therefore we can get some easier rounds on the defensive half.
It's our third Oregon of the day. I hope you enjoy this map. I do find it funny that when everything is on the line, teams default
to
Oregon. Which used to be the one map that we would always say is where good teams go to die.
Yeah.
So it is a bit surprising. If you are the scrappy underdog, which I think is the case with Mirage in this matchup, then yeah, you're going to want to go here. Ditto with Beast Coast all the way back in matchup number 1, so it'll obviously benefit them. As this round gets underway, 30 seconds in, NJR sustaining some damage. The Azami on roam over by Small Tower. A bit of damage done to Kento. Canadian fires back. He's been on the roam and so reliable for DarkZero. Opens things up by taking out Nyx.
So like those keeper barriers in that bottom white window, allowing Hyper to get more of an angle to rotate around. And opening kill, of course, going in favor of DarkZero is going to slow down the attack inside. I'm curious how Mirage now are going to injury towards this building, because as you see, there are not really any drones right now going out. We got to take a step back, re-drone everything. There's rotates, angles, lines of sight, soft walls. And right now, if you're working with no information, it's so hard to get a foothold somewhere. Benji, thankfully, finds a kill onto Pambasu. That's Wamaya off the board. And he didn't get all these magnets out either. So now the bomb set is a little bit weaker.
Yeah, we're not even at the halfway point. When you see an operator like Azami, when you see an operator like Wamai, Legion, their gadgets take time for you to get all of them available. Recharge or just charge in general. Losing those magnets with no backup from DarkZero either. There's no other anti-gadget operator on defense. Nice shot from Melted. Absolutely rocks Canadian. That's the roam from DZ that's been shut down for the most part. NJR might still be off site, but other than that, DZ had kept a lot of map control that they've now obviously relinquished, and they trail in numbers with just a little over a minute for Mirage to pull off and execute.
Yeah, now Mirage, the most important thing is not to isolate yourself into those 1v1s, because you want to try and leverage your man advantage here. Put 2 guns against 1 defender, trade that gunfight 1-for-1, you're still looking at 3 versus 2. You're still in the lead. With 3 members in blue area right now, that looks to be the case that Mirage will try and capitalize on, because they're putting so many guns in one position. They cleared the shield, they just got to deal with this Banshee on that double door from Melusi, then they can go.
Hyper actually has access to the SMG instead of the shotgun, so that's a lot more damage that can be done. First one to fall is Kento from this push from Mirage. Melted has made it in safely. The rest of his team not too far off, sacrificing Marm for Melted to get the refrag onto Hyper. He's inches away from the bomb chassis. Eclipse will swing, not really connected to the overall push, but Mirage have some control of the site as DZ has forced their way back. The remnants of NJR still holding off, and he'll take out a second and a third to follow, but Melted is just simply better in this round. 3 kills, setting up a 1v1 with him and Eclipse. 10 seconds to go. Eclipse has the shotgun in hand. Unless Melted gets a nice shot here. No, it's Eclipse to seal the deal and give DZ the very first round.
That's an important round too, because it was a bit of a back and forth, right? DC got the opening kill, but Mirage, they found 2 kills back to back, made that a 4 versus 3 in their favor. But that blue push was actually disjointed very nicely from that toxic bait being tossed out from DarkZero from Eclipse. It basically split up their roster. Sure, Melted got in, but the 2 other members of Mirage had to walk out of blue, and it just bought so much time for them. And of course, Jacob and Jesse kind of spoke about this on the analyst desk. NJR in these final couple of play days for DarkZero has been such a massive player for them. And in that first opening round that we just saw, same story. Gets 2 kills, holds the bomb site, delays time, and he only had 1 HP when he did it. Even those impact grenades he tossed out on the keeper barrier did so much damage to both members of Mirage. It set Eclipse up for a nice position, when it came down to that 1 versus 1, which then Eclipse would win out for his team as well. So good job, NJR. DC gets the first round, and round 2 is going to take us to Kid Storm's bomb site upstairs.
10 seconds left.
Default site goes in favor of the defense. Second default site on the board. The only anti-gadget operator being brought by DarkZero this time, Zaruni.
Yeah.
No Wamai available. Jaeger's pick rate has been in the basement among these operators because of the changes to his gun, and it is actually quite striking how, yeah, the gadget, the ADS, changed now, so instead of just burning two grenades, 2 throwables, whatever, for a total of 6, it now recharges after 10 seconds, giving you near unlimited potential. But it's the gun that's really been the major change. And speaking of guns, MP5 in the hand of Canadian as a grenade sails over top. Another nade goes in. This is a Candela this time to flash him. I don't know how he got blinded sitting behind that barrier, but another piece of utility will go in. Does it buy Canadian enough time to get down and get out of action? He's repositioned in a nice little rat angle, and Benji could go for the swing, still suspecting him in this position. Another nade goes in. Nobody's droning this out. What is going on here? Benji doesn't have access to a drone at all. Kento still does, but it's not him throwing the nades, it's Nyx. And there's Canadian to swing on to Benji, down he goes. Poor droning from Mirage. They get flustered by the captain of DZ, and yet again, DarkZero starts off another round with a first blood.
It's a very tough one. Like, there is this saying that there are like mini games inside of Rainbow Six Siege, and this is one of those. And sure, if Amos was injured, might get helped up. We'll have to find out. Nope, he's going to be out for the taken here as Melted finds him with his 4th kill. But I mean, all of a sudden, they're firing up from Mirage.
And there's 4 kills in very, very short time. We hit the halfway point of the round. Just as they did on the basement defense, DarkZero have extended upstairs to Mess Hall Cafeteria, and they find themselves at a disadvantage, as now NJR's down for the count. So Mirage's entry proving very successful. This is playing out similarly to what we saw in the previous round, where DarkZero loses their forces off site, and they have to now bunker down. The good thing is that this top floor defense allows you to hold the position even at a disadvantage and still be in a strong spot, because there's a lot of walls you can't shoot through, a lot of reinforcements that you have to cut through. I don't know if Mirage have the tools to do that right now. They still got both of their Osa shields, so Marm can do some serious damage here on this hard breacherless attack. A minute to go for Mirage to pull it off.
In a great position here, but they gotta get, once again, like, find that entry in towards the bomb site. That's where they struggled the last time. They have the tools for it, right? 2 grenades on Kento, smoke on Marm, and those Osa shields. They just gotta pick where they want to go from and then go there together. Again, more guns in one direction is going to favor the team with more people alive. That's Mirage.
And there's a smoke that goes off. Both smokes now tossed out from Marm. None available. Hyper swings. Easily collects Kento. Canadian on top of white stairs. That's an iconic spot for him. But he misses out before finally getting Nyx. DZ at a disadvantage yet against it. Still flourishing. Now leaving Marm to clutch out in a 1v2. A tiny bit of HP for Canadian and a decent rifle in the hands of Marm. But no, nothing to be found. Hyper shuts them down. The 2v3 for DZ becomes a 2v0. And they're up 2-0 here against Mirage.
I want to say, I mean, with how rough that beginning first minute or so was for Mirage, it was a very close one, but there are these mini-game scenarios inside the game we had to talk about, right? When we talk about Consulate, which of course no longer is in the professional map pool, but still in ranked and whatnot, you know, taking yellow stairs control in a top floor attack is this like whole mini execute you gotta, you know, pretty much do cleanly to successfully get in. Big tower attack for a roam clear on a Kid Storm defense that we just saw, you know, where Canadian was in big tower. Same story. It's a mini execute. If you know how to do it correctly and do it cleanly, you can essentially take out Canadian, get a free kill in less than a minute. However, if you don't cover all your bases and you don't get enough manpower to help you clear out that position, as we just saw, Canadian forced out 3 Candelas and 2 grenades, and even got a kill onto Ying before then got him shot down to like low HP later on. But ideally at this level of play, you don't want to see teams not being able to clear big towers successfully, and it ultimately came down to Mirage only having 2 members on the big tower side on the north side of the map, where you need at least 3, if not possibly 4, to drone out while you throw those grenades, know where Canadian is, open up more windows and insert more pressure. That's where we can look back on that round and be like, that's what went wrong. For this one, tertiary defense, as we say, the third bomb site is going to be that meeting kitchen, not dining kitchen. And DC are again spreading out, extending, playing rather aggressive with rotations and soft walls, trying to pretty much leverage the entirety of the map.
Well, after talking about how Jaeger's pick rate has slowed down a little bit in comparison to rounds before, games before, Pambazoo will bring out the anti-gadget operator. That means through these 3 rounds, DarkZero have rotated from Womai to Aruni, now to Jaeger, showing good flexibility. It's been different players playing off of it too. You remember that it was the Womai, I believe, of Pambazoo before, but then Hyper was running Aruni the previous round. Again, heavy investment offsite from DarkZero. This time, because they're defending on the main floor, a lot of the focus will be on the top floor, which is very common. You want to hold the double dorms portion of this map, because if you allow a soft breacher on attack to set up there, it effectively forces every defender on the bomb sites out of their position and gives so much control to the attackers so quickly.
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, Pambazoo just swinging down the main stairs there.
Oh! At the same time! What a beautiful shot onto the door. Pambazoo finds 2 for his trouble, still in that position, and denying you the ability to talk about the strategy behind DZ's roam.
Doesn't need strategy, just needs to hit some heads here. Pambazoo just does just that. Now it's melted for Mirage, having to desperately look for a kill here, an opportunity. Kento, same story, because the entirety of this round strategically for Mirage, it's in the gutter. It's over. So now we're just walking in, trying to make up some damage here. It's not going to get found out. Canadian gets the 1 kill, and now Kento Marm in a 2v5. Gotta make something work.
Well, Marm finally shoots back on that engagement, finds her very first kill, 3 rounds in, not exactly dire straits at this point. Marm and Kento working together. Kento a kill of his own. Down goes Canadian. DZ perilously close to tying in numbers as Hyper takes some damage too. Mirage have a minute to work with. They seem to find themselves with just half of the lobby left. And Kento can nail Pambazoo quite easily. Continue onwards towards the hatch. DZ in trouble, but they know this spot. They know it quite well. They've been at a disadvantage for so long on these rounds. A drop and Hyper hears it, the gun goes off, and that's just poor planning from Kento as Hyper swings for a second, but Marm is better. That one was a lot closer, and I will say that the roam for DZ looked okay. I mean, DZ did get the opening pick in the first 2 rounds, but then Mirage were able to answer back, and through that mid-round exceeded, I think, most of their expectations. It was the mid to closing moments of the round that really undid whatever chances they had of making it work. This one
that's close.
Is very close. And I mean, it's a funny question. Which nickname do you prefer, Nightmare Nix or Comedian for Canadian? 49% of you said Nix, 51% for Troy Comedian. So.
I kind of like Big Bad Nadian more.
Big Bad Nadian is a great one. And I also will say, I understand that for sake of clarity, we had to stop this from happening, but at the old LAN events, when a player would have a bad game and then the very next day their name would be Super something, Super Liven, Super Astro, because they want to avenge their bad performance, I always like that. It did make spectating them, and in terms of identification, a lot harder. Clarity is important, but I always enjoyed that, even if we don't do it anymore.
It's always fun to meme around with it, but then some players will take it too far. They'll just change their names completely. But Big Bad Nadian is that's a classic.
That is really classic, and I mean it's been featured in casting before.
Yeah. I like the effort there from the flourishing of Nyx. He went all the way around the bomb set because there's a jammer inside of blue itself where Eclipse is sitting. So he has to try and go all the way there, and he goes pillars instead because he just can't really find what he's looking for in that deployable shield.
No, I mean that's 3 of the Rotero drones that have been used. 1 to success, the other 2 not exactly as beneficial for Mirage as they could have been.
Nope.
He's still got the deployable shield, which Eclipse has decided to vacate. He's pushed up very aggressively, and if he comes to a reflex test against Nyx, who is 0-3 here on attack, the shotgun ain't gonna reach that far, my friend. Nyx, the only person in the lobby still searching for a kill at this point. Not exactly the danger zone, but 4 rounds in, especially with the role that Nyx plays. You'd expect him to be a little bit better than 0-3.
You would. You saw that air
Ooh.
jab there. Actually, Canadian, if he was a second later, might not have heard it, so he could have been messed himself up with the vault prompt. But no, he hears it, sees it, runs away, does have that one impact in his pocket, could deny it, open up another line of sight. But now DC knows the Mirage are inside of meeting, and we can see here that Canadian, he kind of wants to contest, but he doesn't get too aggressive on this.
Just hold map control.
Yeah.
It's been a very quick round. We're already past the halfway point. No action up till now. Control of the main floor, or at least the meeting component, is in the hands of Mirage, but Canadian is still there, still lurking, still roaming, looming, I think you could say. I suspect that Mirage knows this, but Mirage's drone work has not been particularly proficient. Down goes Nyx. It's another first blood for DZ. They have all 4 so far in this matchup, but just like that, Mirage starts to dominate the kill feed, answered back. NJR still holding over towards Pillar on low HP yet again. Finally finished off by Benji on the ground. It's a 2v2. DZ not taking any damage. Beautiful shot by Eclipse around the bomb chassis. Marm will have to clutch out for her team. After the slow start, she's up to a 3-3 score line. We'll need a 5-3 score line if she wants the W. But there's a perfect crossfire. Nice shot by Mirage! Oh! And Marm gets them both! The crossfire looked so good, but DZ asleep at the wheel and easily done for Marm as she punishes them both to give Mirage their first round.
I was going to say that looked like a perfect crossover from DarkZero, but Marm instantaneously gets the one-shot headshot and then backs to her right just like 2 steps. And those 2 steps, they make all the difference because Eclipse, he's got that SMG-11, he pre-fires his entire magazine, and because of those 2 steps to Marm's right, she avoids majority of the damage. She has 1 HP left, gets the 180-degree flick, and then lands her last remaining shots onto Eclipse and gets the round from Mirage. 1-3 now, still in favor of DarkZero on the defensive side. And remember, Mirage, they did ban out the finger. They might be playing the long game here off the side swap when they get to their own defenses. So we can look at this being like, oh, DarkZero, they need as many defensive wins as possible because Mirage, they are favoring that, you know, DC will struggle on their attacking side. DC's gonna go back to basement. They figured that what they were doing last round worked, and arguably it did. Marm just a little bit better in that round and clutched it out this time around. We'll see what will happen this time instead.
Marma's ice in her veins, I gotta say. She doesn't seem to get tilted. She doesn't really let emotion overrun her at any point like a lot of these other players in a variety of our leagues do. When you're in a clutch position like that and you are facing the daunting task of both players looking at you, the idea is that you can't pull off a 180 to kill the player behind you while you kill the first one, but the jiggle peek, very quick peek onto the freezer door, allowed that extra second for her to then pivot towards the last player of Eclipse by the bomb chassis. So very, very well played by Marm, but also a little bit of a hand up from DZ for not being as prepared for it as they could have been.
We'll see here. Entry gone on. Mirage, they realize that DarkZero, they're very passive on the bomb side, so look at the time right now. 2 minutes and 22 seconds, and Kento's walking down the freezer stairs, has a drone to lead him as well, and they have full map control in the first 30 to 45 seconds. That is really fast pace.
And they've done it with every drone still available as well. This has been the major problem for a number of these rounds for Mirage. They've had some difficulty getting information and then acting upon it. And this has actually been a refrain through some of the games that we've seen today, especially that TSM game where drones would go in, they'd get shot, and there'd be no follow-up. If you're at least going to use that drone, you might as well have somebody backing it up to try to capitalize. But Mirage looked to be quite quick on this one. Maybe head into the bomb site with 1.5 minutes to go as they've done their due diligence on the first floor. Looks like most of the silhouettes have actually, all of the silhouettes from DarkZero are on this bunker basement style of defense. No real roam presence for DZ. That is a bit abnormal compared to their previous 2 defenses of this bomb site.
And also because they only really have like 1 deployable shield and no mirrors, so this is not really favored for them. And even worse, there's a Ying on the board, and sure, Hyber's on the ward and he can see through the smokes and the flashbangs, but no other member of DarkZero really can. So Benji, of course, is a very important player in this round, and he's going to be the one to like execute and allow Mirage to go crazy and get chaotic on the bomb side in just a few seconds.
Still good drone work from Mirage with 1 minute to go. They've got 6 drones out on the field in position, and we got to see one of the cheeky drone angles. Utility now coming out from DarkZero. That's a toxic canister from Eclipse. Used 50 seconds to go with 2 left. Means that there will be some time where DarkZero does not have the ability to throw down any of that toxic gas. Depending, of course, on how they play the time here. Benji poised inside a meeting with Candelas in hands. They could burst through the B bomb site door as quickly as they can. There they go, blinding and flashing from below. DZ repositioning to try and avoid the paralyzing effects. Down by Laundry, Canadian spies one over towards Freezer, can't capitalize. Benji the first kill, Marma follow-up. Bambazu answers back, and suddenly DZ are narrowing these numbers down, but Mirage still has some fight left in them as Kento punishes Eclipse. Nade in hand, 15 seconds to go, and there's still 5 players left in this server. This is going to get real messy. Mirage need to be super quick about this. With Panbazoo is the last one left to clutch out. He's got a single player left to be found, and it's Nyx with no kills to his name. Diffuser getting planted. Time pass, no return. Panbazoo just needs to get a single pick, and there it is. DarkZero have no problem stopping it. Panbazoo wins the 1v2 to give DarkZero a round back after surrendering round number 4 to Mirage.
I do want to applaud Mirage there because Melted on that backside of Big Tower Stairs with 14 seconds left in the round starts droning. And I thought for a second, there is no time left in the world for you to drone right now. But he got the drone down the staircase. He saw the member inside a blue double door. He then walked down and got the kill, put his team in that 1 versus 3 situation. But then we all saw what happened. It's Panda party time. He got the win time and time again in those 1v1s. And he kind of slow start. He was 0-2 or 0-3. He's now finding himself 5-4. And people always complain about Jaeger's weapon. The 416 is so weak, but in the right hands, it can still do some damage. Up close, of course, as well, when the recoil isn't an issue. It can do just that. There we see, once again, the qualifying probabilities between Mirage and DarkZero. And there are a lot of zeros here.
I mean, you don't need to be a mathematician to understand this one. DZ wins. They have a very good shot of making it. They've got a 3 1/4 chance. I think that's how math works. If they don't win in regulation, they're in bad shape.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
And by bad shape, I mean they don't make it.
Yeah.
But you're trying to downplay it a little bit.
And Mirage, they're not going to make it at all. It doesn't matter what happens here, except for, like, you know, their own egos, performance improvement, etc. They might have a chance. No, I don't think they have a chance for SI points either, right? They're like locked in.
The bottom 2 teams, as far as I'm aware, do not get SI points. By the way, Panbazoo, nicely done. Very first pick on to Kento. Kento has been one of the standout performers for Mirage so far this stage, plucked up from obscurity, some would say, if you don't follow the amateur leagues. Joins the Mirage roster, and honestly, not doing a bad job. Hey, Nyx breaks the streak. The goose egg that he had is gone. It's hatched. And that's the very first kill for Nyx. Will there be more for it? Canadian pushes him. Nyx is repositioned over towards Armory Stairs. Canadian can hold down that quite easily, as there's a hail of gunfire going in, and then a sea of drones as well inside of the bedroom. Again, have to compliment Mirage's drone work so far for how well they are going onto those drones and getting information. DZ are constantly repositioning because of it.
I do agree. Their drone work has been very, very nice so far, but the opening kills right now with the aggression from DarkZero just goes their favor. Nyx, Solo, and HP might have a hard time with this gunfight.
Look at that. There's 3 separate drones that have been trying to chase down Canadian. 1 from inside of Master, 2 from the top of Armory, and yet Canadian manages to get away with it. Nyx as well gets away alive, so that's a big win for him. But DZ have Master. They look towards Trophy. They've got control over there as well. X-Kairos coming in from Marm, unsure of where they were going. It looks like, yep, it was onto the wall leading into games. Eclipse has a shotgun out. This is a deadly recipe for whoever shows up. But he gives himself away a little bit early on. Now flashed out. Nobody there to help him. But look at Mirage. They don't decide to take the engagement. Nyx does, and through the wall doesn't spy Hyper inside of Attic. And that was a bait for Mirage, who now find themselves at a disadvantage.
I like these crosshays from DarkZero, basically enabling every single member so somebody else assists them if somebody were to push up. And we see it now as well with Eclipse closing the closet wall. He too has help. And now Benji and Mirage, they're going to go downstairs instead, look for a different approach, because they recognize that with the attic wall being opened up and that closet having a rotation, there's too much aggression outside. It's too hard to deal with. And well, now we just see them walking into bomb site. It's all free.
And Melted knows there's one there, but Hyper is now dropped, holding this area. You thought it might be a Dorm's defense from how the investment upstairs was, but no. You would be confused. Just back over towards meeting, and the main floor is the scene of the crime as Mirage are being murdered, and it's DZ wanted for it. Marm again in a must-clutch situation for her team in a 1v3. DZ have often trailed, but this time the numbers benefit them. Leaving Marm inside of the bomb site with the diffuser, but not much to do as there's just too many players from DZ above And in front of her, she's finished off. That first half is a commanding 5-1 for DZ, and there's no timeout for Mirage. They've used it all the way back. The tail end around number 3. This team could be in free fall, and there's nothing to stop them, Nick.
Something I would like to see, and like I saw G2 did this in the EUL, is when you go to the side swap, you take a timeout immediately, despite your 5-1 or 1-5, just to discuss what you want to do on your attack inside. Now, I think this is mostly a good idea when the operator bans are super funky, and you're like, how do we attack this? And I don't think the finger ban is going to make DarkZero go, what do we do now, guys? It's just get Pambasua, get your finger play on a different operator, different gun, you'll be good to go. Sure, you lose 2 grenades and a gun 6 every single round, so either you pick a grenade operator or you just change things up. Right now, Panda is showing the bug. You can get the flashbang, the secondary heartbeat sketch, and of course, soft destruction, verticality, and a great weapon. So I don't think this is a cry for help where like they should take a timeout and discuss what to do. But if you ever find yourself in a position where you are curious, I do think that it's a great position to do that. Interesting roam game from Mirage here. We got the Bandit being brought out. That is a very, very, very rare operator on Oregon itself, especially on the basement bomb side of all places. We see the freezer hatch, or server hatch to freezer is soft, meeting hatch is opened up. So again, very big emphasis on aggression and roam style from the defending team. It's also why you see Melted on the Asami, who can use that gadget to keep it barriers, to deny lines of sight and keep buying time for the defenders, because you want to try and, you know, burn down that clock and kill as many drones as possible.
We'll see if DZ's drone work can measure up to what we saw at Mirage in the first half. Despite this lopsided scoreline, there were some good things that we did see from Mirage. Their mid-round was almost always quite strong, and that was because of the drone work that they were able to do. Gathering intel on DZ, who routinely switched up the way that they were holding this map. And of course, that's some credit to DarkZero as well, Nick, because you've got a DZ team that would extend quite heavily off the site. And just like Benji extended quite heavily off the site, but gets punished for it, not exactly the entry for, or not exactly the start to this round for Mirage that they wanted. Excellent entry by DarkZero. They continue this trend of getting the first blood. They've only sacrificed a single player at the start of the round 1 time through these 7 rounds. That's an impressive stat. Another's lined up now for Pambazoo. Jackal tracks going in, and he out-duels Marm. That was the only positive player in terms of KD on Mirage. Pambazoo shows that, hey, I don't need Finka. I can still make this work on the buck. Now down goes Kento. Nick, I hope you don't want to talk much during this round because the action staggered as it is. Puts us at half of the round with DZ in a 5v2, looking to move to match point.
I do want to commend Mirage for roaming and playing aggressively into DarkZero, but there's not really a whole lot of crossfires being established. Right? DarkZero finding isolated 1v1s, they're winning those, and you're being chased on the staircase by a GMNI clone, by the way, Melted. That was not a real player.
Hyper broke double digits with that pick, by the way. Pambazoo is closing in on it as well. A very different story on the other side of the stage in Vegas, as nobody on Mirage is positive. You've got Marm and Melted both at 6-6, and that's as close as it's going to get. For every team in the NAL who's not DarkZero, you want to hashtag in Knicks We Trust because you need DZ to lose to open the opportunities for XSET and Space Station, Astralis, and Parabellum to go as well, because if DZ wins here, it's very close to a certainty that they will go to the major, meaning that there's a single spot remaining for PB, Astralis, XSET, and Space Station, and victory looks all but assured for DarkZero as they get a flawless round to move to match point.
Yep, very decisive round. That's a roam game for Mirage, not working out. DC finding every single 1v1 imaginable and just steamrolling through it. Having the Sledge, the Bug, and the Jackal available when you're DC on attack on Oregon is really good for you because any soft wall will be dealt with, any verticality, and of course, when you got the Jackal enabled, you can find those feet and figure out the positions of the roamers. Pambasoo had that information for 2 of those 3 kills that he got because of that Jackal track. So now we're at match point. Now it's backs against the wall, and that means Mirage got to get 5 rounds in a row to take us to OT, or DarkZero will win if they do not. And they're going to go upstairs on the Kidstorm's basement, or Kidstorm's bomb site, rather, to try and see if this is where they can find success. So let's look at the attacker repick situation right now, right? Jackal for the roam game is being swapped onto a Twitch for now because you're no longer on that basement bomb site. You're not going to isolate members the same way. Then you go from Bok to Iana because you want those grenades, that soft destruction, verticality, etc. Because grenades are so much more lethal than bucking somebody from below, and it's quicker and easier to do. And then you go from Hibana to Ace because again, you don't got to deal with 20 billion hatches. You just got to deal with a single wall. usually inside that master bedroom closet. So DarkZero changing essentially 4 operators for this specific attack showcases just how prepared they were for the basement and what big of a backup plan they had in case it wasn't basement any longer. Mirage in similar fashion are going to extend down below 3 members and try once again and contest the entry points from small tower, but melted in showers, Kento inside of dining, and DC, they have spawned there as well, so they'll likely challenge.
Simply put, as much as you might trust in Nyx, I fear that in this matchup in particular, your trust might be a bit misplaced. Nyx having a very poor game at possibly the worst time for this team if they want to play spoiler. I mean, and that's the only reason why. This is an utterly meaningless game for Mirage. A victory here in regulation does not move them into 9th place. They will finish in 10th. Irrespective, or as Jacob would like to say, irregardless of what ends up happening. You can't get any SI points in 10th spot of NAL. So really, this is just for stat padding and to try to sort out issues with the team.
Yeah.
Not that I want to tell you that this game is meaningless for Mirage, but there really isn't a lot that they're playing for here other than to be a spoiler for DarkZero. That's the only thing that this would impact. So either way, not exactly the stage for Nyx that I'm sure he envisioned. Despite having some very strong games, this is certainly not one of them.
No, it's not. There's still rounds to go, of course, but... And I do think Mirage wants to win here. I do think they want to put in their all because, again, you gotta get experience where you can. There's no better place to get experience than in an actual competitive Pro League match. It beats scrimming and practicing any day of the week. So, of course, Mirage, they're looking for the future, whereas DarkZero, they're looking for the present right here in this round on match point.
I've never played Rainbow Six at a professional level. You have, but every player that I've spoken with says that scrims are but a poor substitute for game day reps, and getting in actual matches is invaluable for some of these teams, especially a team like Mirage that is still finding their footing. And despite a very poor beginning to stage number 2 that could have been hindered a little bit by the issues that they were having battling COVID and having to play a number of their first matches online, this is a team that has definitely settled in. This is a bad performance for them. And I mean, while I've seen some promising things as the stage has gone on, keep in mind we are not that far removed from their 7-1 loss to Parabellum. So there are still issues that need to be worked on, and this is as good a time to do it as any. A very slow round, by the way, as now Panbazoo is taken down. Canadian technically credited with the very first kill. 1 for Hyper as well, a second for Canadian. This could be flawless. No, Hyper's finished off. Panbazoo's still bleeding out, and Benji firing away from inside of Attic continues to keep things close, as now Canadian is the next to go for DZ. And Jared will have to hop on in. Eclipse on the window. Both players very vulnerable, but one inside of Attic is spotted out as Eclipse will now need to rotate with only a tiny time amount of left. Panbazoo bleeding, can't really give much intel. NJR dives on in, Panbazoo finished off. Nice swing from Mirage as Kento picks up 2 kills to clean out the trash, giving Mirage their second round and denying an end to this matchup for DZ.
Very slow round there as well. Not really a whole lot of things happen. A bit of a whiff C4 from that bottom armory stairs. I saw that in the basement. That was going towards the wrong location, not the master bedroom floor itself, but we're not going to talk about that too much. We're still facing down the long end of the barrel here because there's a lot of rounds to go, and all DC needs is 1 round where Mirage either messes up or they're forced onto a tertiary bomb site because they played basement, then they went upstairs to Kid Storms, as we just saw, and now they're going back to basement again. If Mirage wins this round, they're locked out of the 2 good bomb sites. They gotta go to a tertiary bomb site. If they don't win this round, well, then the game is over. Very straightforward. And now we can again look at the operator lineup, and what do you know? DarkZero, they're bringing out the Jackal. They're keeping the Hibana, and Panbazoo is back on the block, because we said about earlier, this is a position where it's all about the roam game from Mirage, is what you're assuming to begin with. And once you see the lineup, when the drones come out, we see 1 shield on the Smoke, 1 shield on the Ella, as well as those Grismot mines and the Goyo. This kind of speaks to a more passive approach, but at the very least, once we get to the bomb site, we gotta deal with all that utility. It's why Canadian is going from Dokkaebi onto the Flores to kind of make the bomb site easier to deal with, but the roam game a little bit harder because you don't get those phone calls. So a pretty balanced situation for DC to match that quite a pretty balanced defending setup where that's both aggressive and passive for Mirage. Both teams doing a pretty good job, but 1 Vulcan canister seems to have been popped by accident.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake, and honestly, Not in and of itself a huge deal, but
No.
if you want to deny a push into Freezer, especially if there's a late push that comes in, that canister is integral for holding them off. That now means there's a part of the map that DZ can take rather effortlessly and quite quickly without fearing any damage, or even alerting the rest of the defense too. So a small issue, but that could be the first proverbial domino to fall for Mirage if things do go south.
I do agree. And the thing about Rainbow Six Siege at a professional level, the higher level you play at, the details, they start mattering more and more, right? One wasted flashbang means one less ADS you can burn, or one less Midas you can burn, etc. So all these teeny tiny details that are so like nitpicky, they really do play an effect and a factor in most of these rounds. So when we get later on, we can maybe look at that freezer position again and say, would that, Vulcan canister have made a difference? We'll find out in about a minute from now, because DC are going through this map storming. 1 minute 40, hatches getting opened up. Big tower wall, now that tower staircase push-up opened up. And at about a minute 30 left to go, we're looking at a pretty good pace.
Well, Mirage have once again flourished in the later portions of the round on defense, but that was a single round. Just one. Hard for Mirage's best asset, I would say, which was their drone work, as we've talked about so much so far, to really be that prevalent when they're on defense, because they don't have access to drones unless they play a Mozzie or an Echo.
Technically Echo, yeah.
I mean, there are options here, but there's certainly none on the board. DZ have decided that a change is needed, and they've assembled 3 players over now by Blue. One of those Goyo canisters has been popped as well in front of Nyx as he guards the shield by elbow, the common spot for a smoke to play off of. Nyx still has access to all 3 of those toxic canisters, and if he wants to get aggressive, can push out. The first canister goes off onto the doorway of Blue. Canadian stunned out. Melted, takes a lot of damage, but suddenly Mirage collapses on these DZ players. DZ go for broke. They lose 3 bodies. First to go down is Nyx, a second to follow as NJR cleans up. He's got the B bomb site in his sights. Pambazoo not too far off. Those are the only 2 players from DZ, and they'll have to make some serious noise. Mirage very patient with the final 20 seconds left. Backing away from the B bomb site. Kento right now sitting inside of the supply closet. Pambazoo with diffuser in hand, getting it down, falls off, fearing a push up. NJR gives his position away as Mirage are just playing this clock, and DZ have to have something go. Only 5 seconds left, and kills are what's on the menu. NJR finds one, but it's a total walkout for Mirage, as it's a defensive-sided Oregon that is now benefiting the Canadian org. They pick their 2nd round in a row, and again prevent DZ from closing out this matchup.
No thinking, no win. That's what I'm seeing right now. So maybe the finger ban really do put some people in retirement here, because DC cannot find their 2nd and only needed attacking round so far. That was the 3rd attacking round, so we haven't gone through that many scenarios yet. And this is the scenario that I spoke about earlier. What happens when Mirage are forced onto a tertiary bomb site? Well, that's what's going to happen right now, right? Meeting Kitchen. Arguably one of the 2 weakest bomb sites, together with Kitchen Dining, and this is where Mirage really need to get their W on defense to then reset the board for the bomb site rotation so they can go upstairs, then downstairs, then overtime. So this right here is arguably the most crucial round in this matchup that Mirage would need to win to have the best statistical chance at actually getting the victory.
Well, this is where things are going to get a little messy for Mirage. Not to break the hopes of the fans and all ye faithful who are watching this, but the tertiary bomb site for Oregon does tend to be where teams drop the ball, just simply based on win percentages.
Yeah.
We've only seen 3 bomb sites get brought out so far. It's been the 2 staples up on the top floor of dorms and then down below on laundry. That's very typical. But we also see this meeting kitchen defense. They're foregoing the meeting or the dining and kitchen defenses, instead going with what is safer, and I think a lot of teams are more comfortable on. Win rates be damned at this point.
Yeah.
When you're a team like Mirage, you've obviously got some form of strategy as to how you pick these bomb sites, and they will hang their hat on meeting kitchen. If things fall apart, that's it. That's the ball game. They don't have any window of opportunity to come back as DZ sit on match point.
That they do. Canadian doing some flexing here, now on the Iana, so they want more soft destruction, but still gonna keep, or rather, grenades rather, but they want to keep Pambazoo on Buck because he's been finding a lot of success on that operator. And it's going to be a slow round, I think. Just look at the current pace of things. DZ have droned out the small tower side of things. They got figured out. Now they've rotated all the way around to the armory side, where we saw 3 members of them just waiting around, waiting for those drones to like leapfrog their way up so they can start advancing. Mirage, of course, have extended 1 floor up above the bomb sites because, as you mentioned earlier, Parker, if you give up this space you see right now where Benji's playing, well, then the soft destruction of NGR and Sledge and Penbasu and Buck will just completely destroy all that soft floor below them, and the bombs have become so weak. So now they're trying to try and defend. DC are going to try and attack, but look at this. 2 members of DarkZero are inside a small tower. They're going to basically pinch Melted in this position, and he's going to be stuck.
Melted bought himself some time, but not enough time as Hyper is on the case. Down he goes, DZ opening things up. Mirage are able to push this just to the 6 rounds. That's it for DarkZero because it means overtime is the case, and DZ cannot make it to Berlin through overtime. So that's what things get a little bit dicey for them. A nice nitro cell from below takes out NJR, but Benji was there as well just in case. Marm credited with the kill, continuing to bolster her numbers as she has been an invaluable part of this team so far this stage. Mirage have now fallen off that top floor very quickly. A minute to go, and DZ are circling the wagons, closing in, slowly crushing. Mirage is now the next one to fall, is Benji. A 4v3 with 45 seconds left. DZ's hopes of going to Berlin on the line right now. Out goes a smoke to give some covering fire for Hyper. Eclipse with diffuser in hand, getting planted. A nice nade from Canadian, takes out Kento. Down goes Marm, Canadian doing the work himself. And Pambazu takes out Nightmare Nix. As you can see, there's a bit of relief washing across the face of the DZ members. It got a little scary for 2 rounds there, but the best chance that DZ has to go to Berlin still exists. They pick up the 3 points with their 7-3 victory.